Good morning, lovely people. I hope you're well. Carl, welcome, man. Jen, always good to see you on a Friday. Alistair and I are just putting our makeup on. We're going to get ready in a second. So bear with us and we'll get underway in about 5 minutes. I'll speak to you soon. Yes. Hey guys and girls, thanks again for joining us. We're going to give it about 2 or 3 minutes because I know it's a Friday and a bit like my monitor this morning. It's feeling a bit sleepy. So guys, if you need anything, pop it in the chat box. Jen, can you just do me a favor and just do a quick audio check? Make sure that it's sounding, palatable. Nice. Well, nice is probably a bit of a stretch, but pop over the chat box and just let me know that we've got audio. And we will kick off very, very shortly. I'm really looking forward to this one. People, it's one of those things that, lovely, thank you. It's one of those things that if you get it right, it really, really works. If you get it wrong, it can cost you a lot. Do me a favor, any point during this thing, my audio sounds echoey or it's not sort of, baritones and all the rest of it, let me know because I've had a bit of a weird microphone switching of late. But anyway, I'm just going to sort of grab my things together and give people a little bit more extra time because I know it's a busy Friday. And we'll kick off in just a few seconds. Hey guys and girls, we are about 90 seconds away from kicking off. So this is your final chance to grab yourself a coffee, a juice, and sit tight. Also get your questions ready. If you're watching this on the group, come and join us, jump in, and let's get stuck into this topic. I'm really looking forward to talking to Al. I'm going to grill him on a bunch of stuff in a nice way. But yeah, 90 seconds, and let's get this underway. I'll speak to you soon. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to what I hope is proving to be a happy Friday for you. It's been an interesting week and an interesting year, but I hope you're keeping well and all is well. If you listen to this on the podcast a bit later, thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome to today's masterclass. And I wanted to run this one this month, being an Attract month, but I wanted to run it because I think the topic is really relevant. I think recently I've had more inquiries from businesses, contacts, colleagues about their plans to recruit. What's really in demand at the moment seems to be the ability to fuel some of the growth that's coming about. Maybe it's because of COVID, maybe it's because of other things, but there's a lot of businesses out there who are looking to add people to the team and go on a bit of a growth path, which almost sounds counterintuitive, but that's exactly what's going on. And hence, knowing that, you can bring all the clients in the world, you can, have the greatest marketing strategy, but if as a business you can't fulfill a need, if you can't, you haven't got the bodies to deal with it, it's going to present a problem. It's going to be the thing that stops you from growing. So Alisdair, I wanted to bring in and talk about this and various other things. And there's a good reason for that. Alisdair and I think we met, I actually don't know the moment we met. I think it might've been through the FPA many, many years ago. But he's been one of these people who's been around in the industry for a while, and his passion and the path he's gone down has been about working with businesses to essentially bring new talent into our industry. He first did it with Great Mentor, and now that's evolved into something new called Striver, which I want to talk about today. But what I really want to understand about Alisdair is, like myself, there are certain paths in the industry which don't always, follow the norm. Not all of us go admin, paraplanner, advisor. Some of us find these interesting little niches on the side, whether it's practice management or connecting, really talented people at the beginning of their career with businesses and various different other things. And I think it's really interesting from that perspective to see the world from those perspectives. I think the other thing is, one of the biggest challenges is sometimes in our industry, we've got some people who can mistake the fact that they're really good at the financial planning part of things with they're really good at financial planning marketing or financial planning systematization or financial planning recruiting or training talent. And I think sometimes in those cases, it's really interesting to jump into people who are specialists and can give us a bit of insight. As always, we're kicking this off because you're here and I'm here. As I'll remind people all the way through, if there's questions that come up and you want to know more, I've got plenty I want to talk to Alisdair about. But if you've got questions along the way, please jump in and put them in the box. But man, I've always enjoyed spending time with Alisdair. Even when we went to San Francisco, he's very personable, easy to talk to. And one of those people, the more and more you talk to him, the more you realize he not only knows a lot about the industry, but he's very driven about what he wants to do. So I hope you get a lot out of today. And without any further delay or messing around, Al, can we get you off audio and let's get this show on the road, man. Let's put your...
I am off audio. I'm on audio. There we go. I don't know about the video.
There we go. So we'll start.
You cannot start your video till the host has stopped it.
There we go. Can you start it now?
There we go. Excellent.
Mate, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm really good. I'm really good. And thanks for that intro. Yeah, it's a Friday and they're always good. So that and everything else is really good at the moment, mate. So, and I'm really pumped to have a chat to you today.
I am too. I feel like we've sat down and chatted, but never really. It's one of those things where we talk and we always sort of reconnect, but we never. It's not something we do very frequently. I've always really enjoyed talking to you. It's always very comfortable, and you and I think share a lot of views on things.
Good.
But
That's cool. That's how I like it. It's better when it's authentic and easy.
do you know what I don't get, man? And maybe someone can explain it. How can you do a course on being authentic on social media? By definition, isn't the act of buying the course anyway? You go.
Yeah. Are there courses on authenticity?
Apparently, it's a big thing.
I just always thought that authenticity, it's easier just to not have to, like, if you've got to pretend about things all the time, like the amount of stress and pain that must put on you mentally and physically, and it must be exhausting. So I don't know. Sometimes being an open book's probably at my detriment, but it's a lot easier, I find.
Would you define yourself as an open book kind of person?
Yeah, I don't hide anything. And that's probably, like I'm probably too transparent, but I just think it's easier. I just think like there's too much going on in my head to think, I need to not tell that to that, but I need to control that. And I grew up in retail banking, right? And knowledge was power. And that was this kind of mantra, and it was awful. It was just awful. And I was like, it's just easier just to probably say too much. And as long as you believe it and you say it with genuine, purpose and passion, and it comes from a good place, then just so hopefully that means you won't have to edit anything I say today.
Well, do you know what? I always, as you know, I always say to people, if you need to, we will, but I've never had anyone go, I just, that bit where I called so-and-so or so-and-so, never had.
Well, I won't do that.
Keep that in. No, I try not to use the word so-and-so wherever I can. Can we start with the big issues? How many Striver t-shirts do you have?
My whole family's decked out. I've got a 1.5 and 3.5-year-old. They've got onesies, they've got hats, they've got hoodies. I have blue, black, and white, and I've got a black and a blue hoodie. Lots of it. It's everything. In fact, it's not just our corporate wardrobe, it's our family wardrobe now. My wife wears a hat to the gym with a Striver logo on it. So yeah, we're all over it. It's great.
Someone started saying you're the Mark Zuckerberg / Steve Jobs kind of version.
I don't know whether they wear their logos on there. I think just their face is their logo, but
That's
again,
true.
Growing up in retail banking where you had to wear a corporate wardrobe, I couldn't wait to get rid of it. Now it's like nothing else.
When was the last time you wore a tie?
I used to have when I worked with students, I used to always wear a tie. So I would dress up in front of students and dress down in front of businesses. And so at my event, so yeah, probably, maybe not this year. Maybe not this year. Like at our events, I'd wear ties when we used to have them physically. But I certainly haven't worn one on Zoom.
So it's when my daughter, who's now 6, turned to me, we were getting stuff out of the wardrobe, and she goes, "What's that?" That was the point I knew. Okay, it's been a while. I've
got so many of them. So many of them.
But mate, all sort of joking aside, I reckon we could do this all day long. But mate, I'm keen to dive into, because I reckon, as I said in the preamble, I don't think there's few people in this industry who understand more about what it takes to find really good young talent, bring them through, and retain them and get the best out of them. And I really want to dive into that. But first of all, I mean, for people who don't know what Striver is, or sort of more about what you do, can you just give us a big overview? What do you do? Who do you help? Who's it for? How does it work?
Yeah, so we Striver's a year old next Saturday, the 19th of September. And it's an evolution of a business called Grad Mentor. We sort of digitized that and we rebranded it on the 19th of September last year. Grad Mentor is sort of 8 years old. Striver's been the last year. Okay. And what we've historically done is jump up and down and rant and rave about financial planning as a career path. And we do a lot of work with attracting talent to the profession, and then we work with and coach and support that talent.
Yep.
And select the ones that sort of we think fit. And our client base has traditionally been, privately owned financial planning firms, and who've wanted, attention to detail, a good work ethic, and the ability to work in a flat structure. And so we knew that, and we'd bring those firms and those students, and we used to put them in a speed networking event physically. Now we do that digitally, and now we do that through the platform. So okay. We work with, we raise the awareness of financial planning as a career path. We bring students into it, we coach and groom them, and then we showcase them to the firms that we work with. So the firms that we work with are all, I say, privately owned firms that really value the support that we can give them, attracting, engaging, and retaining good talent and being the go-to there. So that's what we do. Most of our clients are 5 to 50 people businesses. We're about to launch it into accounting and the broader wealth management profession. That goes live in 2 or 3 weeks as well. So that's all where we're going with it.
So you're going for accounting and law as well, is that right?
No, accounting and sort of more corporate wealth management, investment management, and so forth. So we've never really wanted to work with the large corporates. So it's more sort of those firms that want to hire every 18 months. That's the sort of firm that we like to work with, and where we can work with the decision makers and we understand. One of the things when you were sort of reading it in there about my background is that we're a small business too.
Yeah.
And we've hired 3 people through COVID. We're about to hire another person, and it is one of the most anxious components. Exciting, but that drives a lot of anxiety in me, because I know the poor decision making. I remember making a poor decision around hiring, or somebody didn't work out a few years ago, and I remember saying to one of my mentors, I feel like I've done something wrong here. We're in the business of helping businesses find, attract, engage, and retain great people. And she said to me, no, this is a good lesson for you, because you know the pain of making a bad decision and all the things that it means. And it's not just straight line cost, it's all the things that go along with it. So I like to, the mantra in the way that we run the business is just like put ourselves in the business owner's feet and know what a good and a bad decision can mean for them. So we don't push, we don't force. It's got to be natural. It's got to be authentic. It's got to flow with good rhythm. I put lots of keywords in there, rhythm and
I like it.
Things, yeah.
I was having this conversation with Rachel the other day, and we were talking about the fact that I remember someone said to me, if you meet a business owner who says they've never made a major mistake in business, they've not been in business long enough. And the second bit is, like when I was working in corporate, doing what I do now, I look back on that and think I was like looking, because I didn't have the business side of things. I didn't have my own business at that point. It was almost like looking at it through a very narrow slit. And it's only when you get in there and you're like, oh, okay, you can apply it yourself. I totally agree on that. The obvious question is, grad mentor to Striver. What was the rationale for the move? And what were you trying to get away from, and what was the Striver give you that it didn't have before?
Yeah, well, I mean, grad mentors still, we still pay homage to it in the brand. The colors are all sort of one color palette off the old colors, and we've launched a training platform in the business called Striver Mentor. So we still I still really honor the heritage of where we've come from. And Grad Mentor was a lifestyle business. It was very manual, and we were we were making a real difference. And there came a point in time a couple of years ago when there was this sort of perfect storm of Royal Commission and education standards and, some pressures around a few things. And that was an opportunity to kind of really invest in the business. And so we decided to, move it to a digital platform, which, people talk all fancy about technology and stuff. What it means to us is that we actually know our students and our businesses better, because through technology we can collect more data and match with better precision. So we do all the same stuff and all authenticity. The technology just makes us do it better. And so we went and said, okay, well, we'll do that, which means we can scale and we can do it better, and we can provide a better service. And it was just an opportunity to and we also wanted to broaden out into, more professional services. And so there was an opportunity for us to rebrand, and, Striver means, focus on career, want to get ahead, want to make a difference, eager to please, and that sort of stuff. So that was kind of, it sort of became the idea around the brand was it would attract the right type of people to the tribe, and so that's where we went to Striver, yeah. And so the colors are, as I said, all like on a color palette, one color off the Grad Mentor colors. So we kind of really kept the lineage and the homage to the old brand.
I would imagine the domain cost you quite a pretty penny.
The who?
The domain.
Striver.careers. Well, it's Striver.careers. So
that was expensive.
Yeah, but we did trademark Striver, so that hadn't been done. So that was kind of cool. I can't remember what that was. It was all was all a bit of an exciting blur. You know, we did capital raising, we did tech launches, we did rebranding, we did photo shoots and t-shirts. It was all pretty exciting. And about a year ago, and there's been a lot of water under the bridge since then.
I'm really keen to talk about the moment that you flipped, but can we go right back to the beginning? Because I mean, you've had quite an interesting journey sort of into it. How did it all start off? I mean, what was the beginning of your time in the industry, and how did it lead you to, you know, I'm going to do this thing of connecting young graduates with businesses?
Yeah, so I was, you know, I'm West Australian and very proud West Australian. And, you know, I went off overseas to do my university degree in Edinburgh, Scotland, and, you know, couldn't get a job in the UK. My dream of living in the UK kind of died as I went back to Perth with my tail between my legs for my sister's wedding. And I was washing cars at Volvo in South Perth.
Nice.
I was having, at my lunch break, I was having a choc milk and a pie, sitting on this busy highway, covered in dust and dirt, and just said, this is not what I went to university for. I did a marketing degree. So I was talking to a mate, and I ended up going and enrolling in the Securities Institute at the time.
Yeah.
Something called F for financial planning, because it had the word finance in it. And that's all, that was my grades at university were better in finance than anything else. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. And then that day I wrote 12 letters to 12 firms that had F for financial planning in them out of the yellow pages, and said, let me come and work for free for 2 weeks. Just give me a go. And we don't condone anybody ever doing unpaid work, but that's what I did. And then I ended up getting a job in a small firm in Perth and worked there for 12 months and drove the car 3,956 kilometres to Sydney and started working in another small firm in O'Connell Street in Perth. In Sydney. And then after about 18 months of that, I really wanted to be in small business. I really had a passion for it. And I just felt like they gave me a go and big organizations didn't. And I liked the idea of making my name in a small business, but the one that I was working in here kind of let me down around a couple of things. So all of these are lessons to the striver too, right? And so I ended up going and working at CommBank. I went into their power planning, and then ended up sort of, you know, having various stints running parts of their dealer groups and things like that, and building out a franchise model for them. And so I had 9.5 years at CommBank, and then, you know, left there to go and change the world. And I wrote my MBA on financial literacy in Australia and how to raise it without selling products, and went to the desert and did some contracting to Fortescue Metal and Indigenous workplace ready programs, you know, teaching the locals how to sort of manage and budget the money they were about to make as they went onto the mines.
Yep.
That was amazing. Sold the house, ran out of money, thought, checkers, I better go back. And the 10 years at the bank, I now have nothing. And I thought, I better go back and do something. But I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I gave back.
Yep.
And then sort of built Grad Mentor out of just, you know, a lot of people I worked with at the bank were now running dealer groups, and they were saying, how did you find good talent for the business? And I thought, well, I went through this various sort of components about getting myself a job. My career was really good, like successful at the bank. And so I thought I had a few lessons that I could help young people with. And I also had been working with financial planning businesses for 9 years. So put it all together and thought, well, let me see if I can help young people avoid some of the hard lessons I learned. And that's kind of the ethos behind it.
Did you start the business name first, or just go out and start doing it first?
Yeah, just started doing it. Like, I didn't even know, this is like 2013. I didn't even know there was a financial planning degree. I was in financial planning. I didn't know there was a specific degree. Like, I knew there was the RG 146 stuff, but so then I went out to Western Sydney University and knocked on the door of the dean and said, can we get your final year financial planning students paid jobs? And they said, yes, please. And so we were sort of sending students all over the place. And then I had a conversation with another big bank, not the yellow one. And they said, you know, we want to bring more females into our businesses. And I said, well, I'm not going to send them all over the place. If you put a bunch of businesses in a room for me, we'll bring a bunch of female students, aspiring financial planners in. And that never happened, but that was kind of where the idea was born to run these speed networking events. And I went down to BMW in Rushcutters Bay and said, can we bring 10 financial planners and 10 financial planning students into your office, and they said, how much do they earn? And I said, this much. And they said, oh, they could buy a BMW. So they gave us the floor at BMW, and we ran this speed networking event. And that was kind of, from there, it was just go, pedal down, build it better. And
So was the speed networking events, was that the kind of a tipping point for you? Was that the thing that you went, oh, that really worked?
Yeah, so that it just kind of gave it a bit of going back, there's this business coach that I used to do a lot of work with who used to talk about having your product in your services business, and then like a pre-product product and a post-product product. And I never even thought about that. But then I thought, like, bringing people to a speed networking event where they can meet like highly selected, groomed people, and where we've done all the work, and they go, wow, this is inspiring, and they're amazing, and they're energetic, and they're passionate, then that, and there was no cost to that, and it was refreshing, and we made it easy for them. Yeah, that I didn't really even realize that was a pre-product product, but it was, and it is. And so, now it's a bit hard. Now people are zoomed out, so they don't like to do it too much anymore. One day we'll go back to, we do still do them on Zoom, and they did go well on Zoom originally when we went to lockdown. But yeah, it's a really energetic way to get people in front of great students, and vice versa. And like on the platform now, we represent 4% of the students that come through our platform. So when people come and meet our students, they go, oh my gosh, they're amazing. I said, yeah, because we've done all the work for you.
Yeah. So, mate, I really like that pre-product product thing. I think it's got a lot right. But the Zoom thing's interesting because I can kind of concur with that. Like, I was sat down with a number of clients, and I was asking them about this, and the bottom line is, like, they just said, you're better off easing off. Just don't do them. Everybody's doing them at the moment. Everybody's exhausted, and it's just very hard when you're spending 5 or 6 hours in front of a thing. People kind of want to consume it in their own way, and that's why I think podcasts have kicked in again.
Yeah, and I think this forum is a really good one because, it's good to do it live because it forces us to be on the whole time. But I would imagine that more people will listen to this while they're going for a walk or they're doing something else, and so yeah, I think that's true. Like, I think Zoom fatigue's a real thing. I was telling you beforehand, we're doing a transfer of our platform next week, and I've got to get 84 students on a Zoom call individually in a week. Like, that's intense. And then to go and do, any sort of event, like, so I see like people running like their whole conferences now on a day Zoom meeting. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hard.
Well, it's like, I know from experience that after 50 minutes in a coaching meeting, like, even if we're doing it, people's attention's starting to wander, not to mention anyway, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, when everyone's doing Zoom, stop doing Zoom, do something else. Man, so what was the point? There must have been a point where you looked at it and went, I've actually hit something here. There's a very real need. There's a very real problem. This isn't just going to be about me doing it for 1 or 2 people. This is going to be something that is going to grow. Or was it a sudden moment, or did it just suddenly creep up on you?
Oh, no, like, yeah, it's never been a big bang thing. It's kind of, it just was, right, like, it was a lifestyle business. I had this guy in my ear for years going, this lifestyle business of yours. And I was like, I quite like my lifestyle business. Leave me alone. I've got a European wife, and we would go off to spend time overseas, and I'd run we'd travel a lot. And this was obviously pre-kids. And so it was fine for me. And I had this pressure from this guy that was saying, oh, do something. And I was like, I don't know. And then, then there was a kind of a perfect storm of a few things that were going on. I'm like, well, I know there's a need, and I know there's some, I know we could do more of it to more people, and we could put some rigor and structure around it. And so that was kind of the moment. Like, our numbers have grown steadily. There's not been a big, like, a boom or anything like that. There will be now when we start to move into other professions. But the bigger hut bit was about moving it digital and changing the brand. And that's because it's a really different business. And, pre-COVID, there was me, and outsourced everything, and outsourced the whole development team that were sort of full-time on this business and so forth. And since COVID, now we've got 4, and we're about to employ the 5th person. So all of that sort of growing and out of that as well, so.
So with your permission, what I want to do, I want to jump in and talk about 3 areas. You've done a lot of this, and I would love to get your words of wisdom for businesses that are out there about how do they find really good people? How do they hire well? Because that's an area that, if you look at a lot of the research, people often get wrong just as often as they get right. And then on the back end, how do you retain and get the best out of it? But before we do, if someone's listening to this and they go, but what problems do you solve for my business, and how, if they wanted to sort of engage with something that you're doing, let's just put it on the table. What can you give them a path that they can go down?
Yeah. So basically you can go onto striver.careers and join the tribe as a business. And so as that happens, you go on and we ask you 13 different pieces of information about yourself, and then you can browse through the talent that we're working with, and then you can put a loaded job description, which will then ask you another 9 questions of the skills that you're looking for and the roles that you're looking for and the education requirements that you're looking for. And then the algorithm narrows down that group of students and puts them right in front of you. So our clients don't necessarily want us to publish jobs on it. We're not a jobs board. So you can't come on and publish a job and then, wait for 1,000 applications. You can put a job on there and we'll push you the best 3.
And if you, the kind of business that should go on there is someone who's thinking of hiring, is planning on doing it, thinks they're on a growth path. Is there a particular point at which they should be?
No, and we designed the platform. We went through the process of, do we have a subscription model or not? And we don't. Our idea is to get really forward-thinking businesses on the platform where there's plenty of value. When you hire, then there's a fee, but you can go onto the platform, you can set up a profile, you can download CVs, you can post jobs, you can take those job descriptions off and you can put them in your own jobs board and so forth. So there's lots of things on there that you can do. You can explore, you can interview people, you can meet people, you can attend our events. Everything on there is just to make it easier and give you comfort that there's a solution when you need it. And so with me, I think about that all day. Like, I know that I'm going to have this job requirement and I've actually probably got to get it sorted in the next 6 weeks. And I'm sitting there going, where do I go for that? Whereas the idea that I want with this platform is that this is here. When you're ready, we're here to help you.
Gotcha.
So be on there, have a look, know it's there. I kind of think about, there's an email I get from a real estate company that has a whole bunch of deceased estates on it, right? And they send me this email once a week, and I look at that email and I'm not in the market for a property, but one day I will be. And so me having that come to me and me looking through that is my research. And if I went in 2 years' time, go, right, now I'm going to go into the property market and have to start from the beginning and have no idea what's going on anywhere, well, then I'm starting from scratch. Right now, I am constant, and it's 10 seconds reading through it, scrolling through an email once a week. That's the idea. Sounds
like I should be on it, to be honest. Yeah, I should be. So let's jump into this. And tell me if I'm wrong. The areas I'm focusing on is, how do you find good people? How do you hire them and retain them? Is there any bit in there that you think is, I've missed out a step in the process that we should also talk about, or is that the 3?
We talk attracting, engaging, retaining, right? So there's a how to find them, how to get them to say yes and onboard them, and then keeping them long term to get a return on investment.
Okay, so let's talk about the attraction piece. Let's start with mistakes. What are the biggest mistakes you see businesses make when they're trying to find good people?
I love Stuart. He's exactly like me. Let's hire him.
Why is that a mistake?
Well, now that's called diversity and inclusion strategies. But you don't need two of you. Like, the idea is that you employ a diverse set of people who bring different thought patterns, both, demographic and geographic and cognitive. So. I remember that, and the speed networking events are fantastic. Quite often we get, leaders of financial planners that are quite alpha and great communicators and charismatic and so forth, and they go, Stuart's just like me, he'll be awesome. And then you've got these 2 charismatic, bouncing off the wall people in a room, and it's just chaos. It's probably an extreme example, but it's a real thing. So what we talk about is just, and this is why, putting the rigor of the technology together is really important, because it makes people think, well, what actually is the role that I'm looking for? What is the need of that? What is the skill set we're looking for? What is the DNA of fit in the business? And what do we actually need? And stopping and thinking about that and going through that process. And it's really hard to do. And as I said, like, I am in the business now of 4 people, about to be 5, and a lot of outsourced moving parts. And I quickly go, oh, they're great, let's hire them. And hang on, stop. The rigor is, what is it we're looking for? What is the role? What's the outcome? What's the future of that role? What's the culture of the team? You know, like, we've got now, and we're all remote too. Like, there's one of us in Melbourne. We employed a lady in Melbourne that I've never met before, and then potentially going to employ this next one that's going to come in and work alongside or above that role. So I don't want to upset the apple cart with her, because she's going really, really well. So I need to think about the longer term, how they're going to fit, what nuances we need to play with there. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that needs to go into it.
Okay, so that's the first one. Basically, you know, a lot of people hire, you know, on that someone like me basis. What's another one that people often fall prey to?
Not thinking about the role, not thinking about the outcome, not thinking about the team, I think.
So skipping straight to the interview instead of.
Thinking about the role first. Like, I listen to a lot of, you know, Silicon Valley sort of podcasts and stuff like that, and they go, create a role around the person. I don't think that's what we need to be doing in professional services firms. We need to be thinking about what is the role long term. I'm also of the thought around always be hiring too. So a bit of balance around that, you know, finding the right people. But if you're going to go in and say, right, this is the role, just be clear on what the role is and what the culture is and what you're looking for. Where else have I seen it go really wrong?
What about?
Sorry, go on.
What's your view around, like, one of the problems with hiring salespeople is they interview pretty well because they're salespeople. When you realize you've made a mistake, I mean, how soon should you be making that judgment?
Straight away.
Okay.
Yeah. I hire slowly, fire quickly. But then the other thing that we do, like, I mean, we don't sort of talk about this in Striver, but maybe we should, because this is the way I'm doing it at the moment. So, you know, the most recent hire that we made, I started her on 10 hours a week casual, then moved her to 20 hours a week casual, and then moved her to full time. And she'll be off probation by the end of this month, and she'll pass that. So I de-risked that all the way through. The next one, if I had a bit more time, I would pay this particular person to do a business plan or something on what I want this role to cover. I don't have the time for that, so I'm going to put this person on a 3-month contract, which is the same probably as hiring them permanently with a 3-month probation. But the 3-month contract means that we're going to have a conversation at the end of 3 months, and that de-risks it for me. And so that's a good way to do it, because I have to move fast on that. I have had a few conversations with the person I'm thinking about, and the fit's really good. But then de-risking it for me is a really important one too. Knowing that if I need to pull the ripcord, I can, and I think it's good for everybody, because you know, we've said this to clients, you know, so counterintuitively as a business model like us, if it's not working, let's call it now. Like, let's not hope that it gets better, because that we can't run a business on hope.
Man, there's a great story I love from Richard Branson. Everyone sort of remembers that the story about, you know, when he was traveling on a flight, I think it was a New York to London flight, and it was terrible. And he was halfway through, he gets there and says, let's start an airline, Virgin. And that's Richard Branson seeding this idea that he's this, you know, off the cuff, you know, or unorthodox. But what a lot of people don't know about Richard Branson is he hired the planes. He got them on a contract. At any point in time, if it didn't work out, he could give them back. And Tim Ferriss, I think, said the same thing. He said the biggest myth about entrepreneurship is that it's about taking risks. He says actually about minimizing risk. So if you can, you know, that's a great example. If you think you've got the right person, but you're not quite sure and you want them to prove it first, get them on a 3-month contract. And if they say no, you've got a pretty good sense they're not going to, they're not going to back themselves to do it anyway. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know, it might sound a bit contrived too, but like you want the person wanting to work for you over the others. So like we all make sure that students go and see a few firms, and a firm sees a few students, and we talk to both sides of the fence saying, you want them to go and do that. So I'll say to a business, you want them to go and see 2 or 3 other businesses, because that when they come into your business and they have that first bad day, which they'll have, you don't want them having buyer's remorse, right? So you want them to go and do it. You want them to be saying yes to you. You want them to be choosing you. And therefore, you're, again, like if they're choosing you, there's a bit of difference in the way they think. And, like I'm thinking about this one particular person I'm talking to at the moment who's at a large organization, and they're extending the contract every couple of months for them. And then there's 2 other big corporates that are offering this person roles, and they're going, well, but I kind of like the idea of this. And so you want a bit of that buy-in.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is probably back to one of the mistakes. The mistake is that we hire people once the capacity of the business is full. So generally it's a phone call. Alisdair, so-and-so's left, we're gone, or we're just so overwhelmed with work, we've got to hire someone, right? And so if you think about, the capacity of your business being a glass of water and it's overflowing, and then you're hiring people, you need to empty out water, reduce the ability to generate revenue, to then train people. So you need to be predicting in your business, how, I'm 80% at capacity, now we need to hire.
So how do you do, because that's one of the things, ultimately when you hire somebody, your profit's going to take a dip. So yep. if you got that metric in place, that's something to watch out for straight away. But how do you pick the sweet spot? How do you pick that moment where you go, okay, now's the time I should be hiring because this metric is telling me?
Oh, well, you're the business coach, but I would just, I don't know, like I'm probably one of these people that goes, well, I'll just work 120% till I get that person up to scratch. But yeah, I think like right now our business has got a lot more rigor, and we're very structured in the way we're mapping out all the scenarios and all the variables and how things are going to go. And we sort of look at the, we're not in a business where we take money off the table. We're in a business that we just invest all the time. So, but like you can see workflow coming. Like for me, so you always need to be hiring. You always got to kind of think about, where am I going to go next? If I've got a team of 6 people there and one of them leaves, how am I going to pull the trigger? So that's why our platform's handy, because you can kind of go, well, I'm looking, I know what's going on over there. But without using that, you've always got to be hiring. You've always got to have that plan, like someone on the bench.
I want to talk to you about 2 things. I want to talk about how you put together the offer. But I also want to talk to you about one of the things you might have experienced this. A lot of business owners, possibly we'd say senior planners, they often get frustrated, because so-and-so doesn't feel the same way. They don't have the same values. They don't go after it. They're not go-getters, blah, blah, blah. It's all this stuff. And there's obviously, you're going to get a difference in mindset between people who have been employees all their life, possibly, and those who have sort of in business, not always. How do you spot the people who are entrepreneurially minded versus the ones who are predominantly going to work for a salary and that's about it? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. And is a question around just me in general and Strava as a business, or how we help businesses, or what do we look for in talent?
I guess if I was to break it down and say, you're your A, B, C, and D players. And if we define an A player, it's somebody who's got that kind of mindset, they go together, they're just going to go beyond it, and they've got the skill set. Whereas I've had a situation with businesses, you bring somebody in and they promise everything, but once they're inside, they don't necessarily exhibit the same drive. And picking the difference between those can sometimes be really difficult. You know what I mean?
Well, I think from our perspective as a business, Strava as a business, I like to hire people that have skin in the game somehow. Yeah. But when because we work with small businesses all the time, there's a few pieces of DNA that I look for in the graduates that we work with, because I kind of look at it two ways. One, we can put them into a privately owned professional services firm, or two, we can send them off to CommBank, where they can work in 60,000 people firm, right? And they're two different sets, right? This person who ends up in a small firm could probably go and do the CommBank thing, but maybe not the other way.
Yeah.
So the things that I think are the things that deliver the right type of DNA to work in a smaller firm, which has a flat structure, which is kind of more like a family, a couple of directors, a couple of owners and shareholders are all the same sort of
different things. There's no
group.
Yeah.
I look for they've worked in a family business.
Okay.
They've traveled. They've worked and studied or traveled. They come from country, so they don't from the bush. So they don't. These are not everybody can have these things, but it's the things that these trends give. So if they play competitive team sport, or been involved in their church or the religion or something like that. So the sport and religion sort of thing helps them becoming really aware of how their actions impact others. Coming from regional centres, they were in a small community where they can't get away with murder. So they're very community minded. They care for their neighbours. They're response. They've got their eye out for everybody all the time. Travel. They've been independent. They've been resilient. They needed to communicate. They need to think outside the box. They needed to think on their own. And family business. I love family business. If it's a pig farm and the back of the truck needs to be swept out of pig poo, then Dad will go and do that. No, Dad's not above doing the lowest form of work on there. So in the workforce, not above picking up the phone. It's not like the phone's ringing and go, well, that's not in my job description. So those are the sort of traits that we look for with young graduates into small or professional services, or privately owned professional services firms, which is a bit different to the question that you're asking. But
that's spot on. That's literally, and it's funny. I'm listening to that, and I know it's very unusual to get someone to go, here's the blueprint, and I really appreciate that. But I'm thinking of someone a business I've worked with, and we went through the hiring process, and they're a WA business actually, and they hired somebody whose family had been in business, had travelled, was in the reserve army, ex-AFL player, and he's from Perth. Perth is a large regional town, but
everybody. Oh, right, okay.
I don't mean that offensive.
No, I'm from Perth too. I completely get how clicky it is.
My mum lives in Perth. I've spent a lot of time over there, so it's a beautiful place, a lot of wealth there, but it's got this feel to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really useful. So that's the blueprint. So whoever,
that's a Strava secret sauce right there.
There we go. We'll cut that bit out. Can we talk a little bit about the offer? So, I mean, particularly with your market, because they're coming out of uni, right? And they may have expectations about what they're worth and what they're not worth, which is true. Everybody has those expectations. How do you manage that when somebody comes in and goes, I'm worth $1 million, and you're like, and how do you put in front of them an offer, to your word, which is going to mean that there's grow room, there's wiggle room, and there's ideally some skin in the game?
So this is for the students that we get jobs and we work with?
Well, I guess that's the best way of doing it, but in a broader thing, there's probably some people listening who maybe had a crack at this and failed.
Yeah, so we set expectations with all the students, and we're lucky because the new entrants, we do occasionally get job career changes, and we sort of have to set that expectation. But we very much need to set the expectation that they're going into a privately owned firm that are going to start them on $50,000 or whatever it might be, which is generally around about the ballpark.
Okay.
If they're going in first job out of university, away they go. And so, I remember, I've just done this so many times now for so many years. I remember one student saying to me, well, and I sort of said, how much do you expect to get paid? And they said, well, my friend's getting paid $100,000 at Macquarie Bank. And I said, okay, but they have a job at Macquarie Bank and you don't. So how much do you expect? And so I've learned to be a little bit more tactful over the years, but so we just roll it off and it's part of our pre-recorded, almost like a pre-recording. These are the things. So your salary expectation should be $50,000 plus super, and it will only ever go up from there. And that's you can tell that I've said that a lot of times. So we set that, and really with the university grads, if they balk at that, we know there's going to be a problem, because we say to them, if you're going to list the top 5 things of most important when you have your first job for your career, and salaries higher than number 5, you're out of whack. It's got to be the purpose of who you're working for, the culture, the service, the brand, the people, the management, the leadership, the career development. There's so many things that are so much more important than the starting salary for a graduate, because it'll be a rounding error in years to come.
That's true. I mean, I remember talking to a lot of people who'd come through sort of out of corporate, and I think you reach a point in your career where it's less about the money and who you're surrounded with and who you're learning from. And I think the sooner you can get to that point, the earlier, the better you're going to be as a person.
Yeah, well, and I rarely do get an issue now where a student goes, "That's not going. I can't do that." You know, like Sydney's. Like, I remember when I first moved to Sydney, there were three of us bunked in a flat in Bondi Beach, and it was fantastic. And I never got paid a lot of money back then, and we managed and had a hoot, and I never went without anything. And so this is how you do it.
I remember my first flat inspection down in Bondi. It was just off. It was near the Beachfront Hotel, and I wanted in, and there was it was a student. I was in a suit, and they showed me the room, and I was like, "What's the blanket for?" And he goes, "Oh, that's your room, mate." And it was like it was nuts. It was crazy, but that's Sydney back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
You do. I wanted to ask one other thing: skin in the game. That's such. I mean, getting people. I mean, that's important for senior people. It's important for people who are coming through, and so few businesses. Actually, I want to ask 2 questions, but that's the first one. How do you get skin in the game?
So how we done it, or like it's different. Like when working with a university grad, like you probably got a few years down the track before you're sort of doing that sort of thing. But either it's a profit share, you can give them a profit share in their bonus or their incentives. You know, we're in a situation now that we have some equity that we've sold and built out, and we put some of that together for people, and so we can pay a mix of salary and equity. That's so, and you kind of know you got skin in the game where you bring them on at a lower salary than they had before on the promise of the upside of equity, and that is a really comforting motivator. So I've got 2 people one person in the business now that has equity and has been paid in equity and has bought equity.
Is that important to do both?
I think initially, yeah. And for the right type of person, and then because you want them to think like a business owner. So if they're putting money in, they'll think like a business owner.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. If they're getting paid a bonus in equity, it's a retention strategy.
That's really important. So
I think
purchase,
they think like a business owner
equals
and if they're paid in equity
equals in other words, to get them business involved, business owner. Whereas if you're paying a bonus, it's just retention.
I just came up with that then, but I'm just thinking about the 2 type of people in my business at the moment that are on the structure, and that's how it goes.
That's good. So, oh man, we could go in so many different places. Let me ask quickly, like, how do you offset? Like we used to say that a pay rise lasts about lunchtime on the day you get it.
Yeah, not equity.
Not equity, because it's the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, and you, yeah.
I love that.
And like I have a person in the business that was in a business beforehand and was paid 3 years of bonus in equity. And when they started the business to the time they left, it was 10 times more valuable, the business. So say they had a $10,000 bonus for the year 1, they walked away with $100,000 from that year.
Can I add that's
so like that all of a sudden, when they know that that's the potential of that's big.
Well, I was going to say there's 2 things that I've found really useful when it talks about equity. First thing, particularly when you're dealing with young people or younger people, don't necessarily assume they know what that means.
They got no idea.
So you got to sit down and go, imagine that you had a tree that produced apples, right? And someone said, would you like to have half of this tree and help me look after it? And you grew it until it's producing 100 apples. That's equity, opposed to giving you a bunch of money that you spend on Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
And I think, like, there's probably a whole lot more case studies with Silicon Valley and tech firms of young people, starting off and then walking away with, a really solid chunk of cash.
Yeah.
And it's more of a thing now too, right? And especially when you're a business that's growing, it's easier for me to pay someone 10% of their salary in equity than it is to pay it in cash.
Yeah. The other thing I should probably point out is make sure if you're going to give equity, you get a really, really good contract.
Yeah.
One that basically says, if this person goes off the deep end, loses their, whatever, that we have the ability to buy back those shares at a pre-agreed price. It's
you kind of have to have that. You kind of have to have that probably with most of your shareholders too, that, we'll just parachute you out if it's going to get painful.
Got to be a mandatory buyback under certain circumstances. Don't fall prey to that one. That's a bad one. I can just pick up on something. How are we doing for time? This has been really good, Alisdair. Hopefully, you mentioned that's how important it is for businesses to have a proposition, a culture, a vision, a purpose. Small businesses are typically not great at this. Would you agree with that, or do you think it's changed?
Yeah, I think we probably just had it drummed into us over time by some sort of person that's got a 5-day off-site to build a block of paperwork that we're going to put on the desk and have a look at.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it's really kind of simple. And I remember when I did some study, and it was sort of like, if you go into business just to make money, your likelihood of success is going to be lower. So it's sort of like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the good you're trying to prolong, or the bad you're trying to right, or whatever it is, and that's purpose. That's all it is. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? And then that just anchors everything to it. So it's just purely being able to answer the question really clearly. What is the problem I'm trying to solve?
Yeah.
Or what is the problem I'm here for? And then that's your purpose. And then you can anchor everything to that. And then money will come and all that sort of stuff. And sure, we're all shareholders or directors, and we all need to, feed the family and make profit. And so that's, clearly return on investment for the shareholders is the number one. But if you anchor the purpose of the business to the problem you're trying to solve, everything rotates around it. And then when you're talking to a young person, you're not talking about how you're going to make me more money. You're going to talk about how you're going to come on the journey to solving this problem that we've got.
I'm going to ask you a question in behind something. How at what point did you become really interested in Silicon Valley growth methodologies? It sounds like it was quite a while ago.
No, like probably since we went tech, right? And I've had it all sort of drummed into me and made to listen to all the books and things like that. And I don't necessarily think a lot of it has zero relevance to in a professional services firm. But yeah, just it's kind of interesting. I think I enjoy listening to it. I'm not trying to be Mark Zuckerberg. I don't want to be Mark Zuckerberg. I just want to make a difference, and I don't want to be scaling up and flying around in jets. I'm no interest in any of that. But I think some of the thinking is really interesting. The way that people are remunerated, the way people are engaged, the way people think about problems and solve problems, and the way I think it's probably a more American thing than anything. Like, it's okay to stuff up, like, and take risks. And I remember leaving CommBank after 10 years, and people with massive mortgages were looking at me, and they were having heart palpitations going, how could you do this? Surely you're going somewhere. I'm like, no, I'm just going to go to the desert and sell the house and just work it out from there. People were like, oh my God. So I've always been like a risk taker and things like that. And now I've got a family. Maybe I shouldn't be a risk taker. But anyway, so that's probably why I like listening to those sort of things, because it gives me hope that the risk taking one day will pay off.
I'm the same. I had a friend of mine who was CEO of a foreign exchange company at the time, and we had this conversation about. He said it's too risky for me to start my own business. I was like, dude, your entire income comes from one person, and that could change in a heartbeat if they just change management. They don't like you. That's risky.
I absolutely think job security in big corporates way lower than in your own business. I get out of bed every morning and determine whether I've got a job or not.
Well, yeah.
No one else determines that for me.
I like being unemployed. Mate, We could keep going on this all day, but can you give me your take on retention? I mean, what do you think are the big things that if you want to keep, you get a really good person and you want to keep them long term and you want them to grow into the business, and in particular, what's going on right now, where you want them to be the succession plan? What are your biggest tips and things to do and things to avoid?
Don't make any assumptions. Understand what the hot buttons are and the drivers are. Get to know the human.
Don't make assumptions. Understand. When you say hot buttons, can you just tell me a bit more about that?
Well, don't assume that everybody's driven the same way as you are. Like you were talking earlier about, I can't get people to, treat the business the same way I treat it or drive. And don't assume that they're turned on by the same things or motivated by the same things or have the same sort of things, that sort of kick them and drive them, because we're all different, and that's, a beautiful thing. So understanding, like even yesterday was a Are You OK Day, and we did this. I got the team all listening to this webinar and things like that, and just kind of taking the time to really understand people, because I'm manic. Like I just go a million miles an hour, and I can create complete destruction around me as I do that if I don't stop to make sure that everybody's sort of okay and on track and engaged and empowered, and I know what their motivators are. Yep. And there's quite an art to that, and it can't be put in a weekly catch up. It needs to be authentic again. So I just think, making sure that everybody's aligned. If people resign from your business and you're surprised, then you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
So, take the time to understand the motivators and drivers and so forth. And if you want to keep people in the team, take them on the journey with you, involve them in decision making, engage them early. Like, we've got a 23-year-old graduate in the firm, and she knows everything, all the strategic decision making and so forth. Probably transparency at the detriment of things, but also that she's completely on the bus, I think.
One question on that: can we assume that the annual performance review is dead, and it's got to be more frequent than that and more informal? What's your take on that?
No, so I think if there's surprises at the annual review, then you're doing it wrong.
What do you mean by that? Like surprises for you, surprises for them?
Yeah, you should be having constant, regular input and feedback all the way along the journey.
Okay.
So when we do an annual review, we'll say tick, 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 tick. Here's a new remuneration. Are we all happy with that? Okay, on. But if you're sitting there talking at a annual review and the performance is being discussed and everybody's surprised and there's a disconnect between what your expectation and what the outcome was, then you've done it wrong. There should be constant feedback all the way along.
In other words, I'm not necessarily over communicate, but if you go
just make it casual, regular communication about what's going on and constant, regular feedback. Don't wait till your annual to sit down and talk about the outcome.
How's it going? I used to love to do when I was at Hillross, when I had a small team. I used to love to. We'd do performance reviews. We'd walk into Botanical Gardens, go for a coffee down in the middle there, and come back, and that was the review.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
Give constant, regular feedback all the time. If somebody hasn't delivered what you need them to deliver to the state or the standard you need them to deliver, let them know. Don't make it a surprise. There's nothing worse than walking into performance review going, I hope this is going to be a good one.
Absolutely. You should know. I mean, you should, yeah. That's very, very good advice. Mate, I've just noticed the time. I know you've got to get on.
Got to run.
Can you just give a quick idea if, what kind of people you got coming out right now for what kind of businesses?
Sorry, what have we got coming up now? We've got. This is probably the best set of students that we've ever worked with. I think COVID sort of spat that up. Large organisations have let them down. This is a really great opportunity for smaller privately owned firms to pick up really great talent that, 6 months ago might have been stuck, or might have ended up in Deloitte or something like that. All of those big organisations have dropped their grad programs and left a whole bunch of young people in the lurch. So this is probably a once in a lifetime opportunity to pick up talent that are going to stay local and not get wrapped up into this large organisations. You still need to with rigor hire the right people.
Yeah.
there's a lot of really great talent now. The hard one's picking the right one.
Yeah.
We can help you with that, but just know that, make sure this is a good opportunity to get your resourcing right.
Love it. Alisdair, thank you so much. Any final words of advice, mate?
No, but if there's anything I can ever help anybody with, I'm always happy to have a chat. Clearly, we've talked for over an hour now. I'm okay for a chat.
Yeah. You've got to go, mate. If you want to get in contact, you want to get straight off the bat, get on the platform. It sounds like it's just a no-brainer.
Driver.careers. Check me out on LinkedIn. Reach out. Ask for my help. Send me a message. Whatever you need.
A bar at striver.com.
Striver.careers.
Striver.careers. Mate, what have you got planned for the weekend? Anything good?
I'm going to hang out with my boys.
You enjoy hanging out with your boys, and
go skateboarding.
Once again, are you going snowboarding?
Skateboarding.
Sorry, did you say K-boarding?
Skate. SKATE.
Yeah, snowboard, all right.
I do, but it's not. The snow's no good at the minute.
No, it's terrible. Thank you very much. If you're listening to this on the group, thank you. If you're listening on the podcast, I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next one. I'll have a good weekend, and I'll speak to you.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.